Hello. Hi. Hope you're well. Smile is just heating up my face. Hope you're swell. Hope you're ready. Hope you're great. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing nice. Hope you're doing amazing. Update on the book. I posted this on my community tab. Thinking of splitting it into parts. I was just thinking about it, I'm like, because guys, this book is getting longer and longer. I'm making progress, so I'm completing chapters. But each chapter, because there was the draft I finished before this one that I'm on now, and the chapters were shorter, less detailed. So now that I'm going back and revising and editing and all this sort of stuff, I find myself rewriting a lot, and in that rewriting I end up adding new details just to bolster the story and really flesh it out. So yeah, chapters have been getting longer, and as a result the story is getting longer. So it's just increasing the timeline, lengthening the timeline, and I was like, when is this thing gonna be done? I really don't know. So I was like, I don't want to wait like until the end of the year or whatever to release this. So how can I mitigate that? And also, the concern is that the book will be too long for a debut. I want it to be as accessible as possible. Well, I'm sure some of y'all wouldn't mind reading a 160,000 word volume. I think for most people, it's a bit much. So I don't know. I thought a nice workaround is to split it in parts, like a part 1 and a part 2. Much more digestible that way, and I release part 1 and then I get to work on finishing part 2. That way it gives you something to look forward to while you get to enjoy the story. And then once I finish part 1, it's like, okay, now I can anticipate part 2, and part 2 take less time to complete than part 1 did. Because as I get closer to the end, I think less editing will be required, because that's when my writing really started to improve towards the end. So less rewriting will be required. But anyway, it actually might be 3 parts, to be honest. I can see how I could cut it up into 3. It'll depend on how much gets added on. So I'll see as I'm writing part 2, I'll see how much is being added on to what's already there. And if I see that this is getting beefy, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna have to split this up as well. So stay tuned for that. In other news, I was watching a Casey Neistat video yesterday. It's an old video. Casey Neistat, the vlogger, one of the OG vloggers. And he was talking about marriage. Something about how not to get divorced. And it was him and his wife on camera together, and they were talking about how this video was released like a year ago. This video was released like a year ago. And they were saying at the time, 7 months prior to filming that video, they'd almost gotten divorced. They're like the brink of divorce. But they talked things out and stepped away from the ledge. So then that whole video was just them giving marriage advice. I thought it was interesting. Some of the things they were talking about was the work required in a marriage. You have to be willing to put in the work. And I've expressed similar sentiments. Obviously, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who's not married. But I always speak from the perspective of like just watching the things people do. Like, for example, people start off on a high note. The relationship starts off with people putting in all sorts of effort, checking in on each other, getting each other gifts, and hanging out and doing this and doing that, staying in shape. And then as the relationship progresses, people get lazy and they don't put in as much effort. They're not as considerate, they're not as caring, they're not as nice, all that sort of stuff. And then people long for the good old days. How long has this camera been like this? Just slap. People end up longing for the good old days. Casey and his wife were also, they were speaking from the perspective of like working through trouble, working through drama, all that sort of stuff, working through personal flaws. And yeah, they were talking about how they have a therapist they talk to help with their relationship, all that sort of stuff, and how one of their therapists actually fired them, got kicked out of the office and were told not to come back because the arguments are just too crazy. But basically the gist of what they were saying is it's a lot of work and it's hard and all this sort of stuff. And you hear these sentiments expressed a lot when it comes to marriage. It's hard to prepare yourself. It's hard. I had someone tell me this to my face. This lady who's married, she was like, it's so hard. And it just wasn't a great pitch for marriage. She made it sound so terrible that she just was like, it's almost like, it was almost like a warning sign, like, turn around. Don't come here. You're miserable. And yeah, it's something you hear a lot when it comes to marriage. People are just not having a great time. And it has me wondering. Casey did, this is the crazy part, so his wife's dad, she had shared how her father had told her if he could do it all again, so marriage, children, all that sort of stuff, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it again. If he could do it all over again. And I was thinking to myself, that's kind of wild to say. I don't know, honesty and all that, I guess, but at the same time, I'm like, so what, it wasn't worth it? Because that's what I'm getting when you're saying that. You're basically saying it wasn't worth it. If you had the opportunity to do it again, would you? And the answer is no. Including having your children. He was like, I'll just like live life solo, get like nice cars and do this and do that. I'm like, man, that's a crazy thing to say to your daughter, by the way. I don't know about all that. She said she wasn't offended. I get kudos to you, I guess. But I don't know, guys. I think people have such a difficult time with marriage because look, here's the thing. Not everyone is having that experience. I think a lot of people are having that experience. Even if people don't get divorced, what percentage of people are actually happy within their marriages? You know? What percentage of people are actually having a great time? Probably very few. And it leads people to believe that the marriage is just trash. It's just something you shouldn't do because, like, what's the point? Everyone's miserable, right? Everyone is miserable. Why get married? It looks like a big old trap. But not everyone's having that experience. I've seen people. I know people personally. Well, I know a couple personally who are very happy. Like, obviously, you have arguments here and there. You have disagreements. But I think it's possible to be happy. There was one guy who was talking about how he feels lucky because, you know, people talk about how miserable their marriages are and how hard it is and how many times they nearly got divorced. And he's like, I've never experienced that. My marriage has been blissful. I'm sure there've been bumps here and there, but he was saying like he's just super in love with his wife. And he's an old guy, like 60s. He's been married for a long time. And he's like, I'm having a great time. I don't know what to tell y'all. He was like, even when he went through a rough patch where he didn't have cash, his wife supported him, and they've always had a great relationship. So the question becomes, does marriage have to be this ordeal? I'm sure there are challenges. When you're talking about two flawed individuals shackling to each other for a lifetime, yeah, you're gonna have some squabbles here and there. You're gonna get on each other's nerves. But like any meaningful, deep relationship, I just can't conceive like when I get married, like wanting to be separated from my wife, like not wanting to be with her. Because the idea is that we become family, like we become one, to become one flesh. That's the biblical concept of marriage. You merge. You leave your parents' house and cleave to your wife. You become one. Every morning I have my little prayer ritual. I pray, and I always pray for a good relationship and that I perform well as a husband. You know, I do a good job and that she's happy. But I also pray that we get along, that we actually like each other. We like hanging out. That the things that we do together are meaningful, and we like genuinely enjoy each other's company. You have to ask yourself, like, what are you looking for in a relationship? What does that mean to you? What does it look like? And a lot of people, I've realized, are just getting into relationships without much of a plan, without much of an idea of what they're trying to achieve, what they want. And if they do know what they want, they're not being honest about what they want. These are important things, guys. Even before you're married, just even like when you're getting into a relationship, just you have to be honest about these things. And you have to know these things. Forget about being honest. You have to first actually know what the hell you want. So for me, when I think about what I would want out of a relationship, I think I'm fairly simple, low maintenance in terms of what would make me happy. When I conceptualize the sort of things I'll be doing with my wife, I go on a lot of walks. I like walking. So that would be something I'd like to do with her. Having conversations. Having routes that we take. All that sort of stuff. And it's just the thing we do. Going to the movies. I love going to the movies. That's always been the thing that I enjoy. I spend a lot of money at the cinema. I pay these people a lot of money. And there's a club card I have that I never use. If I just kept swiping, do you know how many free movies I would have had by now? I never swiped the club card. Anyway, let's not get worked up about that because I can feel myself getting upset. I like a good dinner date as well. I think dinner dates are they're the best. It's the best type of date. It's very simple. Sitting down at a nice place and eating food and having conversations it's an undefeated formula. And you get to rotate, you get to try out different places. A lot of these places look very nice. It helps when the food is good, but a lot of these places is like, you really just pay for the atmosphere. The food is aight. But there's places like that knock it out the park with the food as well. So it's just a fun thing for me. I like visiting different restaurants, and that's my jam. I feel like I always score points with girls in that department because a lot of these other guys, like their idea of a date is like taking her to some party somewhere or like I don't know what some of these guys do, to be honest with you, but it's never like normal stuff where you can just talk like normal people. And I think the simple things go a long way. So I like it. It's fun for me. Good old dinner date. I've always wanted to play video games with a girl. I remember there was one girl who was willing to learn. I thought that was nice. She said to me, because I was like saying, I've always said this, whenever I enter some sort of entanglement with a girl, I always bring up the whole video game thing. So this one girl was saying, should be willing to learn. I thought that was cute. So yeah, I'd love to do that. There's actually a particular game I want to play that I've wanted to play for years now. It came out a long time ago. It's 2020, 2021. I mean, it's not that long ago, but what is it called? It Takes Two. I think it's called It Takes Two. I just haven't had anyone to play it with. I haven't had anyone to play it with, and I don't want to touch it until I find the right person to play it with. So I'm biding my time. One day I'll play that game with a girl. And I'll be very happy about that. I'll be very pleased. It helps if she's a nerd like me, if she also plays, but she doesn't have to. There's a beauty in that. If she's learning, I can show her some of my favorite games. You can play through the Arkham series, the Batman Arkham series. Goated. I'm a fan of single player story games. That's my whole life. I can show her the Metal Gear series. Maybe by the time I'm in, hopefully it's not that long if I'm in a relationship. Maybe by the time I'm in a relationship, the whole remake series will be completed, because right now they're remaking Metal Gear Solid 3, which chronologically, in terms of the story, in terms of like the narrative, is actually the first game. So Metal Gear Solid 3 is actually, it makes sense to start with that one, and then you play Metal Gear Solid, and then Metal Gear Solid 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 4. Really? Actually, no, that's a lie. Chronologically, it's Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, then 1, then 2, then 4. We'll play all of those. That'll be fun. I'd love to do that. What else we can do together? Just hang out. Just do random whatever else. Maybe she'll have something she want to do with me. I'm down for that as well. Just someone you can do life with, you know, someone you can hang out with, spend your time with, have conversations with. You read something interesting, you can talk to her about it, and she can provide insights. That's important, man. Like someone who can actually stimulate you intellectually. You want someone you can talk to. My parents are separated. They're not divorced, they're just separated. Long story. But one of the complaints my mom had about my dad is that she would want to have conversations about something and that he wouldn't be able to engage with her. I don't think my dad is dumb. He's just their interests were just not aligned. They didn't have the same interests, and she just found that, and very different mindsets as well, just very different ways of viewing things. So she just found that it was impossible to have conversations with this guy. Impossible. You know how terrible that is? Do you know how terrible it is when you realize that you have nothing in common with the person you married? That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. I have nothing in common with this person. And you'd be surprised just how many people are in relationships like that. You'd be surprised. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people that get into relationships in which they have nothing in common with the person that they are married to. So yeah, these are things to consider, man. These are things to consider. I think about it all the time. So that's why I pray for it constantly when I pray. In the morning, I just say, bless me with someone I'm close to. I always do the gesture too. I always do the fingers like this to symbolize the bond that's super tight. Because yeah, man, that's my desire. I just want to get close to the person I'm married to. Like, why not? I think that's what should happen. So I don't think it has to be this ordeal. I don't think it has to be this thing that the constantly like, are we gonna be together? Like at the end of the year, are we gonna be divorced? This is why I saw this one guy online talking about how him and his wife is like a year 1 year at a time. You're saying you never know what happens next year. Like, you'd have some arguments, and the next thing you know, you're divorced. So we take it 1 year at a time. And I get the wisdom behind that. Like, you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. It's just taking things as they come and just working on your relationship, working 1 year at a time. I get it. I might sound naive for saying this, but it was just me, expressing my desires. But I don't even want divorce to be a possibility. I don't want it to be a thing that we think about or give any breathing room as a possibility. Like, it has. We have to be willing to tough it out, man, no matter what. No matter what. We have to have the mindset of like this. This is it. Like, there's nothing. Like, if you say it till death, like, can we mean it? Can we actually mean that? Can we say like death like is the only way out of this? Not to be creepy or weird or anything, but like, if we swear the vows, let's honor them. Let's honor the vows. I was like, I'm not gonna abuse her or anything like that, and hopefully she doesn't abuse me. So I don't think it makes sense for us to leave because we're bored or irritated or like, let's work it out. I mean, there's also infidelity. That's also a risk and grounds for divorce as well. But yeah. I pray that never happens. That I'm never guilty of that, and that she never is guilty of that. But I've always said, like, there's ways to avoid these things. These things are not inevitable. For people, sometimes just say, it just happens. Like, what are you talking about? It just happened. A lot of things you have to let a lot of things slide for that to happen. So for me, it's always like, be careful who you're hanging out with. Sometimes you don't need to be alone with certain people. Sometimes you don't need to go out for those drinks that everyone said. When you're married, you just move different, man. When you're married, you have to act married. Some people be taking off their rings and going here and going there. Like as a woman, I've just noticed this trend. Men and women just not wearing their rings that much, if at all. I don't know. Is it uncomfortable? I don't know. I don't know why people don't wear their rings these days. It's like a lot of taking off the ring. I'm like, why? And then when you're out with your friends or whatnot, people are like approaching you, and some of y'all be letting them flirt instead of saying I'm married. The whole point of wearing the ring, the whole point behind it is to signify to people that you're taken. That's the whole point. So when you're taking it off, people will be like, this person is available. They're not wearing a ring. Every time I watch a video and there's some pretty girl in it, instinctually I just do it. I just look at her fingers to see if she's wearing a ring. That's the thing I just do. If I'm like, this girl is attractive. Or if I meet someone and I think she's pretty, I just instinctually look at her ring finger to see if she's taken. Because for men with morals, I know some of these guys out here are ungodly, so they don't care if he's married or not. But for men with morals, you don't want to, be involved with a married woman. But unfortunately, these days, these girls will be straight up married, not wearing their rings. I don't get it, and these guys too. Someone needs to explain to me why that is. I don't know. Maybe when I'm married, I'll understand or something. I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't get it. And I know married people, I've asked this question. No one gave me a straight up answer as to why that is. It just seemed like, It just seemed like one of those things that's just like a modern phenomenon, and there's no real explanation for it. It's just vibes, like, we don't want to wear the ring. Sometimes we don't wear the ring. Like, why? Wear it. Why not? I don't know, man. I'd be proud. For me, that's such a dump. Like, it's such a like a crown, a victory that I did it, guys. Got married. I got a girl. Yes. I don't know. That's my perspective, at least. I'm not married. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. We'll see. If someone explain to me in the comments how you don't hear it, if you know, because it makes no sense to me. But yeah, anyway, I think marriage is a beautiful thing, and I'm not too concerned about when I hear people saying like it's so hard. Oh my god. I don't get too stressed. Something I left out, probably should have included this earlier on, is that you also have to, like, on your way to marriage, there are certain behaviors that you probably should be practicing, because that makes it harder once you're actually married. I say this all the time on this channel, that premarital sex is a problem, that is a predictor of divorce, which it just is one of the predictors. It's not guaranteed you get divorced, but there's so many things, living together as well as a predictor of divorce before you're married, all this sort of stuff. There's certain things you should probably avoid. If you've already done these things, you can always stop. But people's situations are their situations. I'm not trying to be holier than thou or anything. I'm sharing information for those who are receptive to it. I'm not trying to scare anyone or anything like that or condemn anyone. I'm just saying. And these are things I take into consideration in terms of what will bolster my marriage and give me the best chance of having a happy marriage, a successful marriage, which is very rare these days. So when you're seeing all around you that people are complaining and having a terrible time with marriage, you have to ask yourself, what can I do differently? Because if I do what everyone else is doing, I'm going to have the same result. It's genuinely insane. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result? Is that actually the definition of insanity? I know people say that, but it's not actually the definition of insanity. Yeah. Regardless, I'll be a fool to just keep doing what everyone else is doing and then be shocked when I get the same result everyone else has. So I have to be like, focused and doing what works. And the people who follow the more traditional route, tend to have the happiest marriages according to the stats. Want to get really specific, virgin couples, regular church attendance, stuff like that, they tend to have higher reports of sexual satisfaction and sort of things. So it's not to say that you have to subscribe to that exact model, but you'd be wise to study what's working and then see what you can learn from that and what you can apply to your own relationship in order to give yourself the best chance. So it's not necessarily about living in this cookie cutter way, but just use your brain and be like, what can I do to give myself the best chance at success? And you have to be honest about that, because if you're not honest, it doesn't work. Because if you're appealing to your feelings instead of appealing to the facts, your feelings will lead you astray. So I say these things because you never know who's listening. You never know who might actually benefit from this. So some people might get upset, but some people might actually soften up and be like, I'm gonna take this and explore it, and it actually might help someone. So, I think this is a good message. It's not something you hear a lot in this very promiscuous culture. So that's why I say it. Because someone has to say it, and I'm sure you don't just hear this. A lot of people don't hear these sort of things. So That's why I say it all the time. You never know who's listening. You never know who's really listening. But yeah, my sincere hope is that I am successful in this endeavor to find a great girl, and we are happy. Stay tuned and see you. Touch you like you know, I like to pray at the end of my video. So dear Father God, I thank you for sending the virtual watching this right now. And you need things done in all to us. Please touch me. Wonderful people in your life who love you, take care of them, they really absolutely there's nothing. Thank you for maintaining the outside of every piece of thank you for blessing this person with love and marriage and sustaining the love and marriage and making you very, very happy. Thank you for blessing this person with a spirit of gratitude so they can give thanks for the wonderful things in their life, and by giving thanks they can find peace, contentment, and attract even more blessings. Let your presence be felt in this person's life, so they know your God. Let your will, let your love, and yours be there for good health, long life, and happiness over this person. Everyone to care about you, man. And pray in Jesus' name, I pray. Amen, amen, and amen.